Oh, good. Somebody responded that they can hear me. Thank you. All right, so I'm just going to give a little bit of background. Our speaker today is Sybille Kraft-Bellamy. She has 3 little boys, and her son Max has Angelman syndrome. And he's been on the LGIT diet for about the past 4 years and is currently being followed by Dr. Tiebert and Heidi Pfeiffer, who both spoke at our conference. And Dr. Tiebert was actually the one who gave our very first webinar that we did. This is our second one. So we're very honored to have Sybille here talking to you guys. And I'm going to now pass my screen over to her so you guys can see the presentation. And like I said, go ahead and send questions in throughout the webinar through your question box, and we'll get to them at the end.
Do you have my screen?
Yep, I see it. You should be good.
Okay. All right, good morning. My name is Sybille Kraft. I'm Maxence Kraft's mother. Thank you very much for letting me the opportunity to talk about the diets. It's very special to me because obviously of the positive effect we had with Max. So the first picture you can see, this is Max. He's 12 years old. Okay, so what is the low glycemic index treatment? The LGIT is a ketogenic diet. It is a therapeutic diet. That means that it's a diet was elaborated by and for a certain medical condition. It belongs to the group of the ketogenic diet. Dr. Tiebert talked the last time about the different ketogenic diet that we have. This one is the easiest one to adapt for children and to follow for the parents. Like every ketogenic diet, it's a diet which is very rich in fats and very low in carb. The diet was developed by a neurologist and nutritionist who works together. It was adapted for Angelman syndrome patients. And like every therapeutical diet, the LGIT needs a medical follow-up. When you have a medical follow-up, it's going to be the best way that you can personalize the diet for each Angelman patient. It's very important to know that the success of the diet is going to depend on the management of the diet. The nutritionist should be consulted if the diet is modified or if it's too difficult for the parents to follow, or if you see that there is anything was not working well for your child. So let's talk about the LGIT introduction. To start the LGIT, you must be followed by a nutritionist who works with a neurologist and is comfortable to follow the diet with your child. And in our case, we are followed by Dr. Tiebert and Heidi Pfeiffer. So obviously for them, they have, I don't know, many Angelman patients. So they know exactly what they're looking for. They know what to expect with the diets. And they are able to answer most of the questions that parents may have. So to start the LGIT, you're going to need a blood test, urine test, to rule out every disorder you can have, like fatty acid disorder, carnitine deficiency. During the consultation, the parents will be instructed on how to manage the treatment. A guideline of what is authorized and what must be avoided is given to the parents. Dialogue and communication are the key to the success of the treatment, which means when you are there, you want to be sure that you're going to ask every single question that you have. If you're concerned about weight gain, if you're concerned about weight loss, if you are worried about if you are not following the way you should, what can be the consequences? I mean, all that thing have to be discussed there. It's a long visit. We give you a lot of time to talk, and it's really the time to communicate the best possible with Dr. Tibert or your neurologist or the nutritionist. You will have a follow-up by email, and phone call is offered by nutritionist team too. And we're going to redo a blood test about 3 months later after the diet to see how the child responds. So what is the low glycemic index treatment? It's the ratio is for the fat between 60 to 70%, the protein between 20 to 25%, and the carbs between 10 to 15%. This represents like a plate. The success of the ratio, again, is you really have to follow this specific presentation, which means that every time you're cooking for your child or every time you offer a meal, you must always have this ratio. The 60 to 70% ratio fat, the protein between 20 to 25, and the carbs 10 to 15. Every time your child is eating every single meal, you must have this ratio. And this is going to be the success of the diet. I can see sometimes that, or I can hear people, the way they explain what they're preparing, and they mostly focus on a low carb, but it's not only low carb, it's mostly high fats. So if you don't pay attention to that, you are not following the diet, and it's very, very important. So the fats, they do represent 60 to 70%. They have to be unprocessed, unfiltered, non-hydrogenated, unrefined, and organic if possible. Animal fat and vegetable fat, this is the two main fats we're going to use when we are cooking or we're going to introduce in the meal. Animal fat, all natural fat from meat. You can put the skin, you can use any fatty piece you have on the meat, you're gonna serve this. Obviously you can use butter, sour cream, heavy cream, ghee, duck fat, beef tallow, lard, mayonnaise. For the eggs, you can use hens, regular eggs, you can use duck egg, or bigger, and the yolk is a lot bigger, so you're going to have more fat, more protein. Or you can use quail eggs, which are the opposite, is going to be smaller, and they can be great if you want to use them even like for snack. Bacon, fatty cheese, sardines, tuna in olive oil, cod liver, and for the vegetable fat, you're going to use coconut oil, olive oil, organic red palm oil, sesame oil, pistachio oil, avocado oil, coconut milk, flaxseed oil, primrose oil, avocado, and seeds. And obviously, there is a lot of other kind of oil you can use. For nuts, macadamia, you can see they're very, very rich in fats. Pecans, walnuts. So this is all the main fat that we are using. I try to do my best every day to be sure that you have one of each group of fats. So I'm going to be sure that even in the meal, I'm always trying to use animal fat and vegetable fat all the time. So it's easier, depending on the time of the day, to use some fat than other. Like the morning, obviously, I'm not going to offer them, even if some kids may like it, sardines or whatever. I'm going to try to use coconut oil, or I'm going to try to use coconut milk. And that's obviously easier. And all the day long, following every meal, I'm going to readjust with a new fat. For the protein, it's very important to choose the best quality possible. It can be fresh or frozen. You can roast, stew, steam. You can use it raw, or you can use it in soup. If it's beef, in general, I'm really trying to be sure that it's grass-fed. You can use bison. We find steak bison in almost every grocery store now. You can use lamb, chicken, turkey, duck, venison, organ meats. Every meat is allowed. For the eggs, again, every kind of eggs, fatty fish, sardines, mackerels, homemade broth with any kind of meat or fish. In Max's case, he had broth every day. And you really, really want to avoid any processed industrial meat or fish for a lot of reasons. It's very hard when you buy a processed product like meat or fish to know the exact ratio of meat you have in it. Most of the time you have a lot of filler who are not protein. I don't know really what they are, but most of the time they are very salty and they can be full of nitrates, and you really have to avoid that the most possible. For the carbohydrates, again, they represent 10% to 15% of the diet. The very specific point you have to follow with the carbohydrate is the glycemic index. It must be under 50. The glycemic index is a measure of how much and how fast a food affects the blood sugar. The GI is dependent on the speed at which the food is digested and converted in glucose. Carbohydrates like fruit and grains affect blood glucose level the most. You're going to try to avoid starchy vegetable, and the vegetable must be fresh or frozen. Organic, again, if possible. The cooking method affects the GI. So raw and cooked have a different GI. You're going to see that when you're coming back from your visit, where I'm going to give you the list to follow with the vegetables and fruit and everything allowed. You're going to see the difference. It gives you the difference of the GI between cooked and raw. We don't want any processed food at all for the same reason I said before with the protein, because processed food lost most of their vitamin and everything that we need, and most of them are full of filler or are not really food, in my opinion. Medical emergency and cost of the diet. I really want to talk about this part because we had, unfortunately, the experience with Max. Max was sick, he was vomiting, and we went to the emergency room because we were worried he got dehydrated. And when we arrived there, they did put an IV on him, and it was glucose in it. After, I would say, between 3 and 4 minutes, he had seizure. And he had seizure mostly because there was glucose, and he didn't have glucose for such a long time. So when you arrive at the emergency room, or if you arrive in the hospital, when they do the regular question at the beginning, they're going to ask you if your child have any allergy. You said yes. It's really something you have to keep in your mind, because for me, Max do not have any allergy. So it's the first thing I try to remember, that yes, he is allergic to dextrose, glucose, sucrose. So you're going to explain them that he cannot have any of that. If he required an IV, if he need to be rehydrated, you cannot use that. And specify them, of course, that your child is following a ketogenic diet, because most of the time a lot of medication have sugar in it. So you want to be sure they're going to give you something who do not have sugar in it. When you are traveling or vacation or anywhere you want to go, make sure that your child wear an ID medical bracelet. Same thing, you can write on it, ketogenic diet, no sugar, no dextrose, no sucrose. And that's very important. Max have some at school. He do have like most of his teacher, his aide, and the nurse, everybody know that he do follow a medical diet. I just want to bring the point to that the cost of the diet is lower than the cost of hospitalization and drugs, medication. I know a lot of people are often telling me that it is expensive to eat well, and unfortunately it is true that it does have a cost. But in our case, we really realize that it's a lot cheaper to eat well than to take your child to the emergency room or an hospital oftenly. And the difference is that it's not only your child's going to eat well and better, it's the entire family. And obviously, the quality of life of our children has no cost. For the time management and money saving, what I do is I do a lot of pre-pack, which means I measure and I keep in individual bags. It can be vegetables, it can be soup, it can be everything. If you cook something and you see you have extra, just keep it. Just put it in a Ziploc and freeze it. Put the date on it, how many grams did you add, and just keep it. And keep handy a quick meal recipe. For Max, I know that if I'm coming back late, I'm in a rush, there is some specific meal that you really like or very quick. I'm using a lot of frozen vegetable because it's very handy and it's very easy and convenient. So I'm just going to get, like, for example, some broccoli. I'm going to prepare them with heavy cream and butter in a small pan. And on the side, I'm going to cook an egg. I'm going to use avocado, and I'm going to find my fat ratio that I need for him. And this will take a very short time, and it's pretty well balanced. And if I do have some extra fresh vegetable on the side, like spinach, or I'm going to use some grated carrots, very quickly I can prepare him a meal which fit him perfectly and that he really likes. For the money saving, we do stock a lot at home. When I go shopping, grocery store, online, if I see a product is in sale, I'm going to buy how many, I don't know, but I'm going to try to get the most possible and just to keep them. We do freeze a lot. You can can food, you can use like mason jar, and you can keep the food. If it's fresh vegetable, like seasonal, like tomatoes, whatever, you can prepare them and keep them. You buy in bulk. It's really a lot more affordable to do this. And again, you stock product on sale. I do order online a lot, like specific website like Amazon, because I like Amazon. They have every month's list that if you order the same product every month and to a certain quantity, every time the price is going down. So I'm going to take like an example. Max really love like tuna or in glass jar, all these kind of products. When I buy it in regular store, it's usually $6 to $7. It depends. It's pretty expensive. But when you order online, if you order 10 at a time or 5 at a time, the price is going down until to be $5, $4. And this kind of product kept very well. You can keep them for a long time. I'm always looking for a free shipping product. And the other thing I'm doing is share with friends. I'm buying in very large quantity and we're sharing with friends. Like fat, I'm doing like bucket of duck fat, and I share with friends, and I keep again in the freezer for a long time. So you really have a way to manage your budget. Cook and prepare yourself. When that's, you don't really have choice because you are the only one who know your child ratio. And the good thing is you know exactly what you put in your child plate because you're the one who use like the basic ingredients, so you know that it's pretty pure. And that way you don't really have any surprise with what you put in your child plate. And to do that, it is cheaper. We do have some favorite store, All Food, because for the bulk area, I believe for what the experience I did shipping and shopping, in every place, it is the cheaper place. Trader Joe do have a lot of great selection with nuts and seeds. We do have a local ShopRite who have great products, same thing, and it depends where you live and what you can get. For the pantry food, what I always have in very large quantity is avocado. I always have 5, 6, 7 avocado all the time. Tuna in oil, like I said, I always have multiple cans in reserve. I always have eggs in the fridge and nuts and seeds on the side. So do not forget to claim your tax deduction. When you are following a therapeutical diet, when you're filling up your tax, you can specify that. And I think you can have a break of the difference of, obviously we have to eat, but the difference of the regular product and what you must adjust for your child following the diet. Max, for example, do not get any gluten products. So sometimes when you buy other flour, nuts, or seeds, you can have, the cost is a little more expensive, and you can ask for the difference of the cost. So this is Max's biography, his first few years. Max was born 5 weeks before his due date, consequences of September 11. So he's born preemie. He required oxygen at birth, and for about 2 days, his Apgar was pretty low. When he was about 2 weeks old, we had a car accident, and it did damage his phrenic nerve, which paralyzed his right diaphragm. And for that reason, he was on oxygen for about 6 months until he had surgery. So he had surgery at 6 months. It was an open thoracic surgery, what we call diaphragm placation. And between the age of 1 month and 3 years old, he suffered about 7 pneumonia. He did all of them, viral, by aspiration, bacterial. I believe there was a lot of reason why he was having so many pneumonia. One of the main reasons is I believe he had acid reflux, was not detected. Even if he had many tests, he had swallow tests, he had the prod, he had everything. And every time it was coming back saying that it was normal. But I still think that maybe when he was laying down or at sleep, he did have some reflux. And he finally had this diagnostic of Angelman syndrome at 18 months. It was a very long time to get diagnosed because I obviously noticed very quickly that he was not developing the same way as his brother. I have an older son. And every time I did consult doctors specialized, they were telling me that because he was a preemie, because he was on oxygen such a long time, it was normal if his physical development was not the way it should be. And this is why every time I was trying to explain there was something wrong, they were disagree with that. The other thing too was Max always slept very well. We know for Angelman syndrome it's not necessarily the case, and it's usually one sign that for a doctor and a neurologist is a warning sign. And he never had, at that time, he didn't have any seizure. So when Max was 14 months, when I started having a visit with a neurologist telling them that I believe Max was really delayed, and like I said, they were telling me it was kind of normal because everything he went through, they still decide to give him a brain MRI. And the brain MRI show a mild atrophy of a specific area of the brain. And for me, it was a sign that there was something wrong with him, and mostly neurologically, and I did spend a lot of time at that time to look how I could help him out. And I find very quickly a lot of articles about neurologists talking about specific diet will help a child development. And I did start right away when he was 14 months old to give him a complex carb diet, which means I was giving him a lot of complex carb, not a lot, but only complex carb. But the most thing I was doing at that time was I was giving him a lot of fat products, oil and butter and everything. And even if I didn't know what was the LGIT diet at that time, that's the way I started, to be sure that he always had a pretty large amount of fat with every meal he had, and only using complex carb. When I learned about the LGIT, it was, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, and we took an appointment and we went to see Dr. T-Bird and Heidi Pfeiffer, and for me it was just like miraculous because I was feeding Max that way for almost 7 years, and he was really doing good, and he never really had any seizure. He had his first seizure at 7 years old with a strep throat, with a high fever and severe dehydration. He was hospitalized for 24 hours, and that was it. We didn't give him any medication, and I didn't really follow more with a neurologist at that time. I tried to do my best to follow, again, a complex carb and give him a lot of fat, and he was doing fine. We had to give him medication at 9 years old. It was the same time of the year. He had, every time Max had seizure, it was every time at the same time of the years. And we started to give him Keppra when he was 9 years old, and he took Keppra for 2 years. It's always been an extremely very small amount. The last year when I gave him his second year of Keppra, I was giving him Keppra was every 2 evenings, and it was only 1 time a day. And we stopped giving any medication with Max when he was 8 years old. And today we give him medication as needed, which means if I start seeing that if he's having fever or if he's being sick, or like last year, he was teasing, which was a pretty difficult year with that because it's very inflammatory. It was bothering him a lot. So he did have extra medication 1 time a day, usually before you go in bed, to be sure that nothing will go more than that. So Max development since following the LGIT. What I did notice the last 2 years was how his body became stronger. Max always be underweight, and for the first time in his life, the last 2 years, he started gaining weight. And the last 6 months, he's really gaining weight a lot faster than he never did in his life. I think we weighed him in September. He was 67 pounds. Sorry. And in January, he was 71 pounds. And it's the first time that he gained that much weight in a short time. His endurance is getting better, a lot better. He's able to walk a longer time. When we go grocery store, we're able to take him without the stroller. At school, when they do walk, he's able to follow with no problem. His coordination improved greatly. We have bunk bed with his brother. He have no problem to climb on the top of the bunk bed. Any kind of table, he really improved with that. What we saw right away when we did the LGIT was less gagging, retching. He did this all his life, and when we really start to follow the ratio of the LGIT, the gagging was reduced by, I don't know, 80%. It's still happening once in a while, but it's pretty rare. So like I said, he gained weight, but most of it is muscle mass. It's not like only a visceral fat or only on his tummy. It's really his entire body. All his muscles are gaining in mass and strength. His immune system, I think Max, this winter he didn't get sick at all. The last time he was sick was last year during summertime. So it's a huge improvement. His social behavior greatly improved, mostly same thing the last 2 years. He's a lot more present, more interactive. He's getting more and more verbal. That's very new. But what we definitely noticed is when he was younger, he didn't really care if his brother or friends were in the same room. He was definitely looking at that, but he was not that interactive with them, which he is now. He's really looking forward to have contacts with children of his age. He's really looking forward to participate to activity. He go get his brother, and he's really looking for them to share what he likes. And that's really new. And at school, we know that his behavior improved greatly. He is able to, his transitioning is a lot better. His behavior in general is a lot more appropriate. The most thing I must say with Max is I really feel that we are able to have a better communication and exchange with him. And that's really new. The other thing I really want to talk about the LGIT for me is being a mother with a special needs child. At one point, you always feel guilty of something. At least for me, it was kind of the case. And to be able today to control his health, and mostly the seizure, by only cooking, I think it's just something which is fantastic. It's a feeling that if Max is doing that good today, it's not because of medication, it's only because of me, his mother, and his dad. We are preparing for his food. And that's really something which is for the entire family, which is really amazing. It is so much more rewarding to prepare a meal for a child than to have to give him medication. The same way is, I know sometimes parents are worried that they will disturb the family habits with the food. So obviously it's a little different maybe of what you're eating, but everybody will have benefits of it. And again, it's so much more pleasant for everybody to do this than to go to the hospital waiting for an EEG and all that kind of thing. And that's, for me, it's just a huge improvement in our family life, not only in Max, for everybody. Just want to show a picture of one specific meal that Max really likes. It's an avocado tuna cream. It is very quick. It's very easy. There is no cooking time. You don't really need anything like specific to cook, only a stick blender. This takes about 10 minutes to prepare. As you can see, I do some when we have guests. People love it. It's very tasty. It's very good. This mousse, I mean this cream, obviously your child, Max is not chewing very well. So this is perfect. You don't have to be worried about it. For every kid, you can prepare it. So I did explain how to prepare it after that. It's a 10-minute preparation. We need 1 avocado, a can of tuna and olive oil, 1 cup of mascarpone. If your child is dairy-free, you can use coconut cream. And I use raw spinach, a tiny bit of salt, and a teaspoon of lemon juice. You cut the avocado in 2, you reserve one side. Using a stick blender, you will carefully blend the half avocado with a can of tuna and the salt, reserve. You do the same thing with the other half of avocado and mascarpone and the raw spinach. And you just alternate in a cup if you want to do it in a pretty fancy way. For Max, I'm not going to go that fancy. I just give him in his bowl, and or everybody at home, and that's ready. As you can see, it takes, I said 10 minutes, but I think it's even shorter than that. You have all your good ratio in it. It's a good calorie, it's excellent fats, and it's really good. This is a peanuts macadamia mousse. Same thing, it's one of the desserts that Max loved the most. If you cannot have peanuts or nuts in general, you can use fruit. Max eats this at least 1 time a week. It's really one of his favorites. He loved the crunchy of the macadamia, of the nuts. So here's the recipe again. It's a very short time preparation. You need to take 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. Again, if you're nuts free, you can replace them with fresh fruit like blueberries. You use 1 tablespoon of coconut oil, 2 eggs, organic, free range if it's possible, 1 tablespoon of macadamia nuts, 1 teaspoon of pistachio, drops of stevia, which are the only sugar you are able to use. And now they do some who have great flavor. Most of them are organic, so it's totally compatible with the diet. In a pan, you're going to melt the coconut oil, you're going to mix with the peanut butter, the egg yolk, and the stevia drop, and you whip the egg whites. You mix carefully everything, and you keep it in the fridge for a couple of hours, and after you just enjoy. Again, it's a very quick, very easy dessert. All my kids love it, and it's pretty healthy, and again, it's very easy to prepare. So this is some of the kind of recipe that Max is eating. Again, I know a lot of people believe that the diet is not tasty or not easy to follow, but honestly, it is. There is the diversification of the food is so large that you will find a way to help your child to manage a seizure, and most of it to enjoy what he's eating. I know when I do have questions with parents always who ask me if they're worried because their children have a pretty high amount of carbs in their diets. What I always said is the best way to start is to increase the fat intake first, which means you're going to prepare the regular meal you're going to do for your child, and you're going to put more fat in that specific meal, and step by step reducing the carbs. When you do this, you're going to realize that very quickly the amount of fat is helping your child to not have this like craving for the carbs. Max used to love to have like crackers, mostly with corn or rice, sorry. And when we readjust his fat ratio step by step, he didn't look for it. And I know a lot of children, and I know who are following the diet are the same. They are not craving for carbs anymore because they have such a great amount of fat and protein, which I believe are the primary source of energy for their body. So they don't crave anymore for carbs. And that's very important because I did have a lot of people who were worried for that. So you should not be worried for that, because when you switch to the diet, again, the craving are just going away. The other thing I want to talk about the diet is, in my opinion, it is the first line of treatment. It should be the first thing we offer for children to be healthy. There is no side effects, which is obviously not the case with most of medication. It is, children are growing, their body is changing so much, and it's always bothered me to give to Max the idea that I had to give him medication, because I don't really know, and nobody knows the effects on his body, which is growing. And that's the good thing when you're doing this diet, because it is healthy, it is well managed, it's very well studied, and we know that the children, the children benefits greatly of it in every area. Like I said, it's not only their immune system, but it's their physical strength, their cognitive development. Everything is improving. I mean, it's just fantastic. So I really think that it's definitely worth to try. There is a lot of help, obviously, by the neurologist, your nutritionist. There is a lot of social group who help each other. We have a great online magazine, Angelman Today, who presents we present some recipe. We have parents who talk about it. There is a huge community help with the diet. And everybody who wants to try will receive not only help with the neurologist and nutritionist, but around other parents who are doing it for many years, and they have a good idea what to expect or what you should avoid or what can happen. So again, it's really, I really think that it should be something that as soon as your child is diagnosed with Angelman syndrome, you should ask for. You don't have to start it obviously right away, but if you see that your child is presenting some sign of seizure or other problem like sleeping problem, constipation, skin disorder, respiratory problem, I'm giving all this example because it's what Max used to have. All of this disappeared with the diet. And I think it's the case for most of the parents I am in contact with around the world. They all notice the same thing. So I really wish that everybody would be enthusiastic and try this diet, because again, it is a lot of extra preparation in a way, but when you know that your child is doing better, you're not afraid anymore of this like fear of when he's getting sick, if he's going to have any seizure, or if the weather is changing, if it's too hot, or he's going to have physical exercise. They are so much resistant. and it's just the physical strength is so much better. And it's just it feels so good to have not this fear all the time that something gonna happen. I mean, in my opinion, for Max, I can definitely see that his total behavior and health is total transformation, and it's obviously because of the diet. So I really hope that most of you will try the diet. I don't know, Sheila, if you want me to start answering some questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sybille. Yeah, we do have some questions that have come through, so I'll go ahead and read them off to you. We do have a son who cannot eat dairy or nuts and seeds. What other suggestions would you have for that?
Well, if you cannot have, I mean, the dairy products is not really a problem. You can use a lot from coconut products. You can use duck fats. You can use, it depends if it's lactose intolerant or casein, but you can use ghee because there is no more lactose in it. You can use olive oil. You can use, you have to try, because sometimes some children who are diagnosed with nuts or seeds can be allergic or intolerant to one specific kind of seeds or nuts, but not all of them. So you really want to be sure about that. The other thing too is you can help to heal the guts of the child with probiotic, and you want to try to make him stronger. So hoping in a pretty short time you're going to be able to lower his intolerance level. You can use a lot of broth, like I said, with the fat from the animal, like beef, chicken, the skin, turkey. So when you use all that broth, it's pretty fatty, and that's perfect. You don't have to use butter or whatever like this. It's fine. Again, I can use duck fat. It's very, you can order duck fat online now. And for the seeds and nuts, same thing. You can avoid that. And you have to be sure again that there is an intolerance is the oil seeds. Maybe there is not with the oil. Every child is different. You want to be sure about that. And again, you can replace by black olives. There is a lot of things you can replace with the seeds. You don't necessarily need seeds and nuts anyway. It's just because it's a great way to bring fat, and the kids, some children really like it because it's crunchy, because there is a lot of thing again. But you can use every kind of other product like avocado, like eggs. So anyway, you can find your ratio without seeds and nuts and dairy.
Okay. Another one of the questions was when you were talking about when Max was in the hospital. What are the other alternative fluids for when the child is at the hospital? I don't know if that's something that you can answer, or what was Max given instead of like the IV and everything?
Well, you can still give an IV. It's just going to be electrolytes, which means okay, there is no glucose or dextrose, and there is no problem. They do have IV with that, with electrolyte, with sodium, potassium, calcium, to be sure that the child is not going to have a seizure. So regular electrolytes is fine.
Okay. And then somebody else has asked a question about constipation, and if there's any recommendations for that.
Well, constipation most of the time is, I mean, most of the time, like, it's a problem with hydration. A lot of children don't drink enough, and it can be really an issue. So you want to be sure that your child gets plenty of fluids. A lot of children are very sensitive to the temperature, what they're drinking. A lot of children don't like it when it's very cold. Some don't like it when it's warm or hot. You have to find what your child temperature, what he's drinking, he likes it the most. I was talking to a mom lately, and she really told me it was really a struggle for a son. He didn't want to drink until we find out a way to make like lollipops, and we use electrolytes, and we put a tiny bit of fruit in it, and she freezes it, and he just loves it now. And he can have 3, 4, 5 a day. So you can use electrolytes, you can use herbal tea. There is great herbal tea with great flavor with like clementine. I don't know. There's so many products, and you just freeze them. And some children, at the opposite, they don't like necessarily to drink, or they may have swallow problem. What you can use is extra protein, like collagen or what we call jello. You can find some online who are carbs-free, but they have a good ratio in protein. You put a tiny bit of coconut oil in it, and you can make jello with that. And it's a great way to be rehydrated, summer, winter, anytime. And it's very easy. It takes just a couple of minutes to prepare, and you keep this in the fridge. So that's one main thing with constipation. The other thing with constipation, obviously, is fiber. But it's not, if your child can have seeds, I think it's a great way to have fibers like hemp seed, chia seed, and they're pretty low in carbs. You can supplement with some magnesium. Magnesium is really wonderful with constipation. Epsom salt bath help a lot too. And you can give probiotic. Probiotic, it's a big key to help your intestinal and gut to work properly, and it's going to help huge with the constipation.
Okay, a couple more. Does this diet help with aggression and sleep? Do families do this diet and still take sleep and behavior meds, or has there been success removing these meds with the diet?
Well, I totally believe that the fat is a fantastic way to nutritionally help a child brain development. When you have this amount of fat, and I talk about regular animal fat, but in Mac's case, he do take a lot of cod liver oil or fish oil. Every omega-3 and 6, they are very well known to help with behavior and reduce aggressivity. And when you remove most of the carbs and like gluten in particular in all the grains and most of the grains, you are removing a huge amount of toxic toxin in the child's system. And I really think that when you have a good follow-up with the LGIT, with a good fat ratio, it does not only help with the behavior, but it does help huge with the sleeping. I think it's helping a lot in the sleeping because with complex carb, you avoid the idea of the LGIT, and the difference of other ketogenic diets. It's not to go in ketosis, it's to control the blood sugar. When you're controlling your blood sugar, you don't have this peak of insulin all the day long. And in fact, with a good amount of protein, you feel that you are less hungry most of the day. If you follow very well during the day this diet and this ratio, that means when your child is ready to go in bed, he's going to be able to spend like 8 hours or 7 hours during the night without the need to wake up because he's hungry. So it does happen, because if it's like in Mac's case, his metabolism and mostly the evening is using a lot of energy, and it's pretty fast. Max come back from school at 3:30, and he have a meal, and he have his real dinner with meat and everything at around 5:30, and at 7:30 he does have a third meal with peanut butter, nuts, and yogurt, and everything, oil, and so many extra fats. And he need that to go in bed and fall asleep pretty quickly and sleep between 10 to 12 hours. If I don't do that, he's going to wake up in the middle of the night or 3 or 4 a.m. and I know usually the time he's hungry, and I feed him. I have to feed him if I want him to go back in bed. So yeah, I do believe that the LGIT is just, it's really helping with the sleeping and the behavior because of the amount of fats, which is the real food that the brain needs. I mean, we know that the brain is composed only in fat and cholesterol. So, I mean, mostly fat and cholesterol. So it is the best way to feed our children's brain, the high-fat diet.
What happens when you go out to dinner? Do you bring your own food for Max, or do you order something and have them modify it? Or
Well, it depends. Sometimes I do take some meal with them. And if I know that I can be in a place that they can ground the food, they can do it. You're just going to choose to have, if they can ground the food or if they can prepare a specific plate for your child, of course there's no problem to go restaurant or wherever you want. You're going to ask, let's say, some green beans, and you're going to ask them if you can have some avocado and a piece of meat, and you're going to ask extra butter and cream. So you definitely can go eat out. You're just going to redo your child plate and ask for extra products like butter, cream, olive oil. Usually in every restaurant, they should be able to give you extra butter, cream, olive oil. There's no problem with that. And avocado is becoming one of a very specific, one product you can find everywhere. So it's not a problem to go eat at the restaurant.
do you feed your entire family this then when you are making your meals, or do you feed the other kids something different, or everybody's basically on this diet?
Everybody is on the diet. The only thing is I do adjust in Max plates because we don't need to eat so much fat. But the preparation, the main preparation at first, the way I cook the vegetable, the way I'm going to prepare them, or the meat and everything is going to be the same, which means we do have a pretty high fat intake in all my family. And we do have only complex carb. But honestly, nobody's complaining about it. My kids, the more butter you can put in it, all of them, they're happy with that. The more cream, they're fine with that. If they had to eat the skin of the chicken, they're fine with that. In general, children kind of naturally like fats. You have to find which fat they like it the most because every child is different. But avocado, cream, ghee, ghee is wonderful. It's a butter who is cooked a long time, so there is no more lactose. So it's great for children who are lactose intolerant, and it's very tasty. So I don't think it's a problem for anybody in the family. I mean, in our case, everybody's fine with that. They don't have any problem. I do not use sugar anymore. I don't have some at home. But nobody really complain about it. I'm using like fruit, or like sometimes I use stevia, where I'm gonna put some nuts and seeds, and they're fine with that. Everybody's fine with that.
Okay, and then we just have a couple more, and then we'll start wrapping it up. But one is, can you recommend a website that lists brands of foods for LGIT, such as would like Jif peanut butter be a no-no, or is there a website that lists the different kinds of brands that you should be using?
I would believe the Charlie Foundation may have that, but I'm not really sure, to tell you the truth. The peanut butter, you just give the name. I don't know what is the composition, but again, you want to be sure that you can read the composition, that you don't have hydrogenated oil. You want to be sure that the amount of sodium is not too high. I know sometimes in some peanut butter they put some extra sugar, so you want to be careful with that. Peanut butter, I don't know, me, I just realized it a couple of years ago. It's very easy to do. I just use like a regular food processor, and it's really a basic one. I think I bought it in like Target for $20. And you just put your peanuts in it, and you put extra olive oil and a pinch of salt, and you just grind all of this, and that's where you have your peanut butter. It's a lot cheaper, obviously, than when you buy it. You can buy peanuts in bulk, and you just do it. You can put some vanilla flavor, whatever you want in it, and it's very easy, and it's very quick. Going back for the list, to find a list, I'm not sure, but it's maybe it's something we should start thinking about to create some, at least, LGIT friendly. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a good resource, I think. One last question, and some of this might, we could probably send off to Dr. Tibert too, but part of it is, how do you taper off the many seizure medications once the diet is started? How long until one sees an improvement, and how long should they give the diet a try?
Well, this is another great thing. It's a great question because I really wanted to talk about this. Is a lot of parents are worried when they start the diet. They're worried to make a mistake, and they feel that they're going to be the one, responsible if the child has a seizure. When you start the diet, you're not changing, you're not doing anything different with the medication. You start the diet first, and you're going to wait. It depends on the children, it depends on the age, it depends on the amount of medication, and it depends on the child. Some child's going to respond pretty quickly, and some it will take a couple of weeks before you start seeing the results. In Mac's case, when you really start the LGIT, respecting the ratio and everything, it took 3 months. When we really start seeing a difference in his behavior, attitude, and everything. And we did remove the medication, reducing the medication maybe a year later. But Max is very special because, again, it took medication a very short time in his life, and it was such a small amount. I don't know if it's the good example to take, but I know that for some children, the LGIT, after I would say 1 year, they were able to reduce the amount of medication, and if they were taking multiple medication to go to 3 to 2 or 2 to 1. That I do know a lot of children were taking 2 medication, and today only take 1, and they take very small amounts, and year after year they're not changing the amount of medication, which is fantastic. But obviously Dr. Tibert will be the person the most appropriate to talk about this, because he's the one who gave the green light, and he's going to be the person who starts saying that we can reduce this one or we can suppress this one. But the good thing is there is not a single child who will not benefit from the diet. I'm absolutely sure about that. The diet is just positive for every children, and there is no age. Even a young adult who's struggling with diet should try at least the diet. And again, when the diet sometimes is not working the way you would expect, you really have to look carefully if there is not one specific ingredient that your child is not, dealing well with it. He may have an inflammatory reaction, or like intolerance or allergy to one specific product. So that's something you want to talk with your nutritionist, because you're going to realize very quickly that if you just remove this product, you're going to see very quickly positive effects happening.
All right, good. Well, we're finished up here for right now. If you guys do have some more questions, we do have a few that we didn't get to. If you do have some more, go ahead and send them through on your chat pane, and we can have Sybille answer them after the call, and we can send out an email to all of you with a list of answers. We want to thank everybody for being on the call. We appreciate you taking the time to join us. We do have another webinar next month with Dr. Grill talking about emergency issues and emergency medical procedures. So if you guys keep an eye on our website, we'll have that information up there. And thank you, Sybille. It was a great webinar. You did a great job, and we appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.